It was my family's monthly movie night, and we're sitting in the fourth row of the theater. I've got my tub of popcorn that's the size of my head, and for a 6-year-old, my head was huge. I'm sitting next to my sister, and it was her turn to pick the movie, but whatever. And my dad. Now, my dad was the coolest guy in the world. I mean, he was smart, he's funny, and he taught me how to burp on command. Anyways, the movie began, and suddenly, I'm taken into a world of magic, a world with a giant 3-headed dog, a world with a baby dragon, and a world with a man with 2 faces, and a boy. His head was huge too. But he was a wizard. After the movie, on the way home, my dad was just as curious as me. I asked my sister, "What is Harry Potter, and how can I get more?" And she looked at me and said, "Well, there are books." So I decided to give reading a try. My dad went out and bought a copy for each of us, and I started reading. And in that moment, I remembered, I don't know how to read. I wasn't the smartest 6-year-old, but I'm in college, that's all that matters. But my dad, on the other hand, finished the book in one day, which is crazy. But he saw this as an opportunity to help me read. See, every night before bed, he would sit down with me, and he would read all of the narration parts, and I would read all the character parts. It was like playing the book in my head like a movie. This went on for The Chamber of Secrets, too. He went out of his way for everybody. I mean, he worked at the church, he worked at Dairy Queen, which sounds a lot lamer than it is, but it's really cool, I promise. But he worked there since he was 15 years old. I know people that have worked at Dairy Queen my whole life, like Bridget. 2 years before I was born, Bridget was 15 years old, and she came to my dad looking for her first job. She was trying to save up money for her first car, but she had no way of getting from school to work and back home. So my dad agreed to pick her up from school, take her to work, and take her home every day. He did this for 2 years, until she saved up enough money to buy her own car. And you know what? Bridget still works at Dairy Queen to this day, and I see Bridget all the time. But my dad went out of his way for everybody. Like in 2005, when Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince came out, the 6th Harry Potter book. I was still in the Goblet of Fire, but I was reading it on my own, which was a big deal. And a big book, anyways. I remember reading in the living room, and this was the same year that my sister was in Virginia for a school field trip, and she wasn't able to get her own copy of the Half-Blood Prince. And I remember sitting in the living room hearing voices in the house. Methinks it's time to investigate. So I started following the voices in my house. They were coming from the back office. I pressed my ear to the door. It was my dad. And he was saying weird words I had never heard before, like conceive and horcrux. I was still in book 4. But then he said Tom Riddle, and I knew he was talking about Harry Potter, and he was right there at his desk with the phone to his ear and 3 copies of Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince in front of him. But his copy was open. He was reading to my sister over the phone while she was in Virginia. They must have been doing this for days. They were at least halfway through the book. And I just sat there and watched him do this. And I don't know exactly what I was witnessing, but whatever that was, I wanted that. And then 2 years later, my dad got really sick. This was the same year that the final Harry Potter book, Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows, was to be released. And we were going to go to the midnight book release, but my dad couldn't go. He was in hospice care at the time. My sister and I decided to still go with our friends. We dressed in our Harry Potter costume. She even cut her hair short to look like Harry Potter. And I wore a bald cap because I was Lord Voldemort. It was weird. But on our way out the door, my mom stopped us and said, "Don't buy your dad a copy of the book. He's too weak to even hold it." And that just didn't feel right. We all had our own copies of the book, every last one of them. So we got to the Barnes & Noble, and the entire place is decked out in Harry Potter gear. They had Harry Potter everything. They had Harry Potter trivia, Harry Potter fruit punch, Harry Potter corn dogs, which is just a corn dog on a wand, but they had it. Swear. And the clock struck 12, and we finally had our books. We were ready to go, to be a part of this final adventure with Harry. But it just didn't feel right not to get Dad his own copy. And as we got closer to the register, we saw the answer. Audiobooks. Right there. My sister and I didn't hesitate. We grabbed the audiobook and we ran home and we showed it to him. And the look on his face. He was so excited to be a part of this final adventure with us. But he didn't even make it to chapter 8. I never felt so related to Harry Potter before. I never wanted my letter from Hogwarts so badly before. I needed to run away. I wanted to escape. I felt just like Harry at the beginning of the Sorcerer's Stone. I needed to escape all the questions like, why did this have to happen to our family? This man that went out of his way for everybody, why couldn't he just finish the book? So I started reading the series over again. And I had never read so quickly before in my life. I read the first book in a day, the second book in a day, the third book in 2 days. And I got an answer. But it wasn't the one I was expecting. I'm not the same as Harry. Harry's parents died when he was just a year old. Never even got a chance to know him. But me? I got 12 kick-ass years with my dad. And all the experiences, all the stories he told me, and all the lessons he taught me without even teaching me, make me who I am today. Harry Potter grew up fatherless, but I did not.